Hello students and welcome to the lecture. So students, as we know that in the previous lecture, we had started our discussion over the parliamentary committees, right? This is the topic on which we had, you can say, started our discussion. Okay. And in the parliamentary committees, these are the topics that we had scheduled for the discussion, like the meaning, classification, okay, and then you can say financial committees, departmental standing committees and their jurisdiction, committees to inquire, committees to scrutinize and control, committees relating to the day-to-day business of the house, housekeeping committees and consultative committees. Okay, so these are the total topics that we had scheduled for the discussion. If we talk about the topics that we have covered so far, so basically we have done with the meaning and the classification. All right, and then we had, you can say, come to know about that if we talk about the committee. So and how can a committee could be decided? Like how can we say that this is a particular committee? So basically there are the four conditions on which this could be decided. The first condition, if he, or you can say if the committee choose, appointed or elected by the members, if by the speaker and the chairman, if the committee, you can say, works for the speaker and the chairman, and if the committee works for the parliamentary forums. So there are the four conditions, and you can say we could only revise them accordingly, like if the committee is appointed or elected by the house or nominated by the speaker and the chairman, if the committee works under the direction of the speaker and the chairman, if presents its report to the house or the speaker and the chairman, if they having the secretariat provided by the Lok Sabha and the Rajya Sabha. On the basis of this, we had found the another thing that was about the consultative committees. Okay, right? Why? Because the consultative committees not fulfills the four conditions that we have just covered, so that's why these are not considered as an parliamentary committees. Okay, because any committee that is to be the parliamentary committee is required to fulfill the four conditions, and that's why even the consultative committees consist the members of parliament, but they could not be defined as an parliamentary committee. All right, these are the things. After this, we had come to know about the two types of committees in the classification part, the standing committees and the ad hoc committees. The standing committees are permanent, appointed on the regular basis, but the ad hoc committees are those committees which are not permanent and they are only appointed for certain task and period. Once the task and the period completed, the committees will dissolve automatically. All right. So basically right now, after revising several facts and figures that all we had covered in the previous lecture, now we are going to talk about the financial committees. The financial committees are basically the standing committees. Okay. So the first committee comes under the financial committee is the Public Accounts Committee. Okay. First committee is Public Account Committee, also known as PAC. So if we talk about the Public Account Committee, so we can say this committee was first set up in 1921, okay, under the provisions of the Government of India Act 1990 and has been in existence since. So if we track down it, then what we will find that this Public Account Committee is actually set up during the time of British India. All right, like if we talk about the Government of India Act 1990. The one thing that we know about is that the Government of India Act, also known as Chelmsford and Montagu reforms. Okay. And while we were discussing about the historical, you can say, aspects of the constitution, then we had discussed this act in detail. All right. So basically the act was passed in 1919 and as a result of it, in 1921, for the first time, the Public Account Committee was set up. All right, and since 1921 till now, it has been in existence. Okay, Thereafter, if we talk about the composition part, so at present, it consists of the 22 members. How many members are there? 22 members are there in the Public Account Committee. 15 members are belong to the Lok Sabha and 7 members are from the Rajya Sabha. Got it? Remember this, not only the total composition you should be aware about. Okay? Total composition is necessary, but the main question derives from the internal part. It means that might be the question would be asked like how many members are there in the Public Account Committee. So you can say that 22 members are there, but if it asks for the internal division, then remember 15 members are belong from Lok Sabha and 7 members from the Rajya Sabha. Okay, this is the internal division. Got it? The members are elected by the Parliament every year from amongst its members according to the principle of proportional representation by the means of single transferable vote. Alright, so here we can say that the members of the Public Account Committees are not outsiders but the parliamentary members. Okay, and you can say the election to the committee is basically based on the principle of proportional representation. Okay, by the means of single transferable vote. So if we talk about the proportional representation, we had already discussed it when we were discussing the parliament session. Alright, like in this method, the voting is quite different from the normal voting. Okay, in the normal voting, basically we vote for one candidate. Alright, and if the one candidate secures the majority of the votes, then he will be elected. But in the proportional representation, every voter who is taking participation in the voting process, he will give his preference. Like suppose you can say there are 4 you can say persons standing in the election. Alright, and you can say there are 4 persons conquesting for the election. Got it? And now you are a voter. In the normal voting, you are required to select one candidate from them. Okay, and then suppose A, B, C, D are the names. So you say that A is the person to whom I am giving my vote. Okay, so if the A secures the maximum votes, then he will be elected, otherwise some other one will be elected. But in the proportional representation and the single transferable vote, the things are quite different. Like here, instead of giving your preference to one candidate only, you are required to give your preference to all. Like A, B, C, D, 4 candidates are there. Now you are required to give your preference. Like your first vote should be to A, second vote to D, third vote to B, and fourth vote to C. So this is your preference. Okay, and according to your preference and according to the preference of other voters, the person would be elected. Okay, so this is called the principle of proportional representation. Got it? Thus, all parties got due representation in it. Why? Because instead of majority voting, it is based on the proportional representation. Alright, because every member is to be the part of the PAC because it is of highly, you can say, important nature. The term of office of the members is 1 year. So you can say whosoever would be elected to the Public Account Committee, the person would be there for the 1 year. Here you can also match it like the members are elected by the Parliament every year. So you can say 1 year. Okay. But here is one thing, here is one condition, like although every party could have their representation in the Public Account Committee due to the proportional representation, but there is one condition, like a minister cannot be elected as a member of the committee. Remember this thing. So only the private members could be the member of the committee. Private members means those persons who are the members of the Parliament but does not have any ministry, any department, any kind of portfolio. Got it? Similar thing happens here, like the minister is the person who is the member of Parliament and you can say also belong to the ruling party and hold some portfolio, ministry or department. Alright, so remember, a minister cannot be the elected member of this committee. Alright, but the private members of the ruling party would be the members of this committee, so that every party could get the representation in the public account committee. Got it? Now let's move forward. So here we can say whosoever would be the chairman of the committee. Okay, he is appointed amongst the members by the speaker. Okay, so who appoints the chairperson of the committee? The speaker of the Lok Sabha appoints the chairperson of the committee. Here you can say there was a time period 1966 to 1967. The chairman of the committee belonged to the ruling party. It means that whosoever would be the member of the ruling party other than the minister, the member would be the chairman of the committee. Okay. However, since 1967, a convention has been developed whereby the chairman of the committee is selected invariably from the opposition. Okay. It means that now the chairman, instead belonging to the ruling party, now it's belong to the opposition on the terms of invariability. All right. Then you can say function of the committee is to examine the annual audit reports of the Comptroller and Auditor General. Comptroller and Auditor General. So basically, if we talk about CAG, so we had already discussed them. All right, and we know the Comptroller and the Auditor General is the constitutional body. All right, and he is the, you can say, oftenly regarded as the guardian of the public purse. Why? Because he is the person who audit and inspects the accounts of the central government as well as the state governments. Okay, like how much fund has been allotted to them, how much fund they had spent it from it, then what is the validity of the fund they had used and all. Okay, so basically whatsoever the CAG finds out, okay, he submitted his reports to the president, and the president is submitted the report to the parliament. Okay, and we had discussed that basically it is not necessary the parliament members must have the adequate expertise and the time to look into the reports presented by the CAG. Okay, that's why a particular committee is there which will examine the report submitted by the CAG to the president and the president submitted to the parliament. Okay, and here you can also see it, which are laid before the parliament by the president of India. Got it? And if we talk about the reports of the CAG, then the CAG submits the 3 audit reports to the president, and these reports are audit report on appropriation accounts, second, audit report on finance accounts, third, audit reports on public undertakings. So there are the 3 reports the CAG submitted to the president. Please remember their names. The first report is audit report on appropriation accounts, second is audit report on finance accounts, third is audit report on public undertakings. So these 3 reports have been submitted by the CAG to the president. Okay, so if we talk about the working of the committee, then we can say the committee examines the public expenditure, or you can say the government expenditure also, not only from legal and formal point of view. Okay, legal means the constitutional validity. Okay, formal means the normal validity. Okay, they are 2 different terms. Legal means that what are the ways, powers and functions the constitution provided to the member, or you can say the authenticated person who could use the account. This is the legal. Formal means that how does the person spend the amount, what is the rationality behind spending the amount. Okay, so both of these point of view are taken into the consideration by the committee. Okay, so that they could discover technical irregularities, but also from the point of view of economy, prudence, wisdom and propriety. Okay, so you can say, however, through the legal and the formal point of view, the technical irregularities could be found there. This is quite possible. Okay, this is Quite possible. But maybe there are chances that this is because of the economy. This is because of the prudence. It means that the situations are running out of the control. So that's why the authenticated person took some, you can say, the cautiousness before spending the funds. Wisdom, like maybe they have the different vision regarding the spending of fund. Propriety, okay, to bring out the cases so that this could be found whether the fund had been wasted, if the fund has been lost, if there is any corruption cases. Extravagance means suppose if the requirement was only 100 rupees but the spended amount was 200. It means that there is a extravagance, expending more than the need. After this, the inefficiency, okay, and the nugatory expenses which are not authenticated. Okay, so here you can say, if we sum up them, so we can say the committee examines the public expenditure from the constitutional and the normal formal point of view to discover the irregularities in the technical sense, but they also take into the consideration the economy, the prudence, the wisdom, and the propriety of the spender. And then by combining all these things, they try to find out if there is any case of wastage, loss, corruption, extravagance, inefficiency, and the nugatory expenses. Got it? Then you can say in more detail, the functions of the committee are: first, to examine the appropriation accounts and the finance accounts of the union government and any other accounts laid before the Lok Sabha. Okay. Appropriation accounts, audit report has been already submitted by the CAG. Finance accounts, audit report has already submitted by CAG. Okay. And any other accounts, doesn't matter whether the report has been submitted by the CAG or not, but these reports had led before the Lok Sabha, so they will examine it. Got it? About the union government or the central government, you can say. The appropriation accounts compares the actual expenditure with the expenditure sanctioned. Okay? Actual expenditure with the expenditure sanction. What is the difference between the actual expenditure and the expenditure sanction? For example, we can take example like due to you can say there is some project, all right, and the project requires 100 crores. Okay, so the parliament selects 100 crores. So this is the expenditure sanction. Like to some project you could expend 100 crores, but the actual expenditure, it means the actual amount spent on the expenditure might be is only 80 crores, and you can say might be it's about 120 crores. So here in the 80 crores deficit amount, okay, and in the 120 crores extravagance account. All right. So there is the inequality between the actual expenditure and the sanctioned expenditure. So this is the parliament is required to find out. Okay. So the committee is required to find out through the Appropriation Act. It means that the Appropriation Act, I have already told you. However, the money bill consists the amount that is to be paid to the different, you can say the organization, ministry and department. So this Appropriation Act is the act which authenticates the withdrawal of the money. Until or unless the Appropriation Act permits the withdrawal could not be done. Alright. So the Appropriation Act shows the expenditure annexed by the parliament after the discussion. Okay. And then the committee compares it with the actual expenditure on the ground. While the finance account shows the annual receipts and the disbursement of the union government. Finance account shows annual receipts, annual revenue also, and disbursement means like how much the government is spent on collection of this revenue. Okay, like even if we talk about the toll tax is a revenue to the government. Okay, but if we talk about a you can say if we talk about the disbursements, and you can say if we talk about the expenditure happening on the acquiring of that particular thing, then you can say if you have across the toll tax, there is infrastructure, electrified infrastructure. So there is electricity bill to maintain this. Second, They are persons who work for the toll tax. Salaries are to be paid. All right. There is other, you can say, the infrastructure like uh, the restrooms are there. Okay. The parkings are there. All right. Even some police force and the security personnel are to be there. So here you can say that if the government is earning the revenue, still behind the revenue collection, they are spending the money. Okay. So finance account shows this, how much revenue they have collected and how much amount they had spent in the collection. Okay. Thereafter, we can say it scrutinizing the appropriation accounts and the audit report of CAG on it. The committee has to satisfy itself that, but before this, you can say appropriation accounts and the audit report of CAG, they must be matched. Match means there must be the equality between this appropriation accounts and the audit report of CAG. Okay. And the committee has to certify itself that the money that has been dispersed was legally available for the applied service or purpose. It means that suppose if there is XYZ service for which the money has been withdrawn, so legally the money was provided to that service or not. Okay, the first thing. Second, the expenditure conforms to the authority that governs it. It means that suppose if the aviation ministry has, you can say, spent some amount and you can say use the expenditure. So thus the authority having the confirmation and having the right to spend that particular amount. Okay. Third is every reappropriation has been made in accordance with the listed rules. Reappropriation means, like you can say when we talk about the Appropriation Act. So this is just an estimated expenditure. Okay. If we take an example, so you can say suppose you are with your friends and you are planning to go to Shimla in the summers. Okay. Shimla is a hill station and you want to go there. This is just an example. Okay. Then what happens? You guys are planned that if we are 4 people, so at least normally 10,000 rupees will be the expenditure. Okay. This is your planned expenditure, or you can say estimated expenditure. But when you went there and you started journey, then due to some causes, might be you have occurred the expenditure of 15,000. Okay. What was your estimated? 10,000. What is your actual? 15,000. So here you can say that more than 5,000 is the, you can say, excess of amount. Okay. The amount that generated while ongoing of the journey, and you can say on the actual reality. Similar thing happen in the project cases, and you can say in the budget also. Like when we talk about the ministries and departments, so they are running different schemes, they are running different programs. All right. So the estimated cost of the programs and schemes, okay, they are not based on the actual, you can say, expenditure. They are planned way. Okay. They are only planned. But when these things happens on grounds, okay, then there are chances like the planned expenditure is shorter than the actual expenditure. So here you can take example. Suppose if due to some project, the sanction amount and you can say the estimated amount was 10,000 crores. But while running the project, the amount cost up to 17,000 crores. 7,000 crores are higher. Okay. So that's why the reappropriation is there. It means that if the expenditure goes high, okay, then the previous estimated expenditure, so the act was amended again, and that is called the reappropriation. So reappropriation is allowed, but it is to be made in accordance with the related rules. Okay, in accordance with the rules and regulations that are prescribed for them. So these 3 conditions, basically the committee finds out after scrutinizing the appropriation accounts, the accounts that had been sanctioned by the parliament, and what is the relation between the expenditure and the revenue. The CAG reports had been found, and these are to be made properly. Okay. Like first thing, they will find out if the money was dispersed. So the money was legally available for the applied service or purpose, not or yes. Okay. Second, the expenditure that has been you can say committed by some authority, the authority had the permission, had the you can say rights or not. Third is, if there is any reappropriation which was to be made, okay, then it should be accordance with the literature rules and not. Okay, so these are the things that the committee finds out while scrutinizing the appropriation accounts. Okay, so these are the things. So students, basically in this lecture we have finished till here. In the next lecture we will continue from here. Till then, just revise the facts and figures that all we have discussed in this lecture and be ready for the another lecture. With this note, let's end this lecture, and what we say thank you.